Thank you very much, Praveen. Thank you. Yeah.
Concluding remarks? Yeah, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. And first of all, let me say I'm also very happy to meet Ajay Chibbar digitally today. I have not met him since 1974. He was right enough. That's 46 years. When we were together in St. Stephen's College doing our BA Honours Economics. I mean, we both happened to be in the same hostel block, which is known as the Mukherjee West. Now in St. Stephen's, we used to call it residence, not hostel as such. But we were together in residence in Mukherjee West. So I do have very happy memories of our friendship at that time. And I must tell him that I've been following his career quite avidly. And even right up to last few weeks ago, I've been reading his articles which have been appearing in the newspapers. And I find them most discerning about the economic situation. Well, he has really pointed out everything that is possible about the $1 trillion economy before you. I can only add a little bit on the basis of my own experience as an administrator and civil servant in the state of Uttar Pradesh, having held quite a lot of important portfolios here, including that of the Chief Secretary. First of all, let me say that $1 trillion, yes, looks unachievable, but as has been pointed out by speaker after speaker, it's an aspirational goal and we must aim high. If we aim high, then it is possible for us to achieve something. We'll get somewhere at least. If we aim a bit too low, then we're not likely to go anywhere. And UP has to develop in a big way. You know something, in 1947, the per capita income of UP was somewhere around 50% of what it was, the rest of the country. But today, we are only third from the bottom. So after 1947, in the last 70 odd years, UP has gone down as far as per capita income is concerned. And so we have to grow much faster than the rest of the states, much faster than the national rate of growth if we have to come anywhere. And yes, when we are talking about $1 trillion, we are saying that today the contribution of UP is 8% to the GDP of the country, and we want to raise it to 20%. That's quite a bit. But then, as Ajay also said, it is not possible for India to grow at 8% if it wants to reach by 2030 the $5 trillion goal, unless UP also grows at a much faster rate. So yes, and he has pointed out many economies which have grown at that way. So maybe this kind of explosive growth is possible in UP. We have the demographic dividend, which he talked about. We have that in UP. And today we are having an enabling policy environment also. Maybe we have to do a little more work on how these policies are formulated and actually implemented. The implementation part of the policies. If we can implement these policies well, then I'm sure we can take advantage of the demographic dividend also and bring some kind of explosive growth into the state of Uttar Pradesh. UP is primarily an agricultural economy, we all know about it. And that's why our per capita income is so low. 65% of our population is engaged in agriculture and only 25% of our GDP is coming from agriculture. We have to take our people out of agriculture. We have to make a quantum jump in our agriculture growth rates. And for that we have to disaggregate the state. It's a huge state, as everybody has been talking about. A population of 220 million, the 5th largest country in the world by itself. You can't, have one policy for the state of Uttar Pradesh. You have to disaggregate. There's a different policy, prescription for Western UP, different from Eastern UP, different from Bundelkhand. As I would say, Bundelkhand, for instance, has huge potential in developing horticulture, and we can develop it into the Israel of India. We can do that. Like Israel, it also doesn't get much rainfall. So is Bundelkhand also rain-fed. But if we can bring in that kind of technology, if we can bring in drip irrigation, and if we can bring in horticulture crops, the kind of revolution is possible in Bundelkhand, which will transform that part of Uttar Pradesh. Similarly, Purvanchal is blessed with rivers, blessed with a very good water table. And it is very much possible to raise the agriculture productivity, and what Ajay talked about, a second green revolution. When you talk about a second green revolution, we have to focus on eastern part of Uttar Pradesh, because there is a huge gap between the western part and the eastern part as far as productivity in agriculture is still concerned. So these are some of the issues when you talk about agriculture. But more importantly, I would like to say today the agriculture sector reforms. So far, even in my time as an administrator, we used to focus on inputs, get better high yielding variety seeds, get more fertilizer, get pesticides, make water available for irrigation. That is what we were concerned about. But today the scenario has changed. Today it is the market which is important. How do we make the farmer get the right price for his produce? How do we make the agriculture market system function? And to that extent, I personally am a supporter of the structural reforms that have been initiated by the government of India in the agriculture sector, that is opening up the agriculture market, one nation, one market concept, and allowing the farmer to sell anywhere, not only restricted to APMC. Of course, there are certain concerns which are genuine and need to be addressed. For instance, I don't think APMC should be done away with totally. We should strengthen the APMC system also and give the farmer a choice. Either you sell in the APMC or you can sell it to any other buyer. And APMC at least gives you a price discovery, which is very important for the farmer to have. So let us strengthen that also, and let us open up the market. And contract farming also, if the right kind of regulatory environment is there for contract farming, if we can have more farmer producer organizations, a whole network of FPOs, we need to aggregate. We can't have a 0.8 hectare farmer, small and marginal farmer, parley on equal terms with, say, multinational corporations like PepsiCo or otherwise. You have to have aggregation of the farmers. We can have the cooperative model, like in Amul we have the dairy model, or the farmer producer company model, which I think is very, very relevant, and we can go about it in a big way to setting up farmer producer companies all over the state to make this possible, that a farmer can have viable contracts with the companies. If this is possible, then, as has been pointed out by earlier speaker, we can convert Uttar Pradesh into a hub of agro-processing or food processing industries, which can be located in the rural areas, and it will generate employment in the rural areas for the people, when people can move from agriculture to these industries and bring about an overall development of our rural sector, which is so very vital when we talk about the development of Uttar Pradesh. So, if we can implement the reforms well, if we can formulate the right kind of rules, if we can have the right kind of policies to take the reforms further, I am sure that will make a big difference to the agriculture sector. And if the agriculture sector can take a quantum jump, then UP, it is possible for UP to go on the path of the kind of development that we are talking about. Industrialization, of course, is essential if we talk about this kind of growth rate. If you talk about 15 to 16% growth rate, it's not possible without industrialization. And UP has been a little slow in that, despite the new policies, despite the investment needs, despite everything, the progress is not as fast as it should be, and we have to focus on it. But of course, the heartening feature is our improvement in the rank in ease of doing business, but as Ajay has pointed out, there is no direct link between that and the kind of investment that is going to flow into your state. So we have to maybe look at other aspects would make investment possible. Maybe how to improve the infrastructure, maybe how to improve the perception about law and order, maybe how to improve so many other things which will make investment possible in the manufacturing. We will have to get champion industries into the state of Uttar Pradesh. Defense corridor is one big possibility where defense related industries can come up, big champion industries can come up, and linked to that a whole network of ancillary industries can come up. Electronics, another sector where we can do very well, because Noida has already become the hub of the electronics industry, and tremendous scope is there to take it further. And just by focusing on the electronic sector, we can add to the GDP in a big way as far as the state of Uttar Pradesh is concerned. So these are just to mention a few, but of course there are the old traditional strengths also of textiles and leather. And then as leather, he pointed out, Ajay, that there are environmental concerns about leather. Taking into account those concerns, still these industries are huge employers, both textiles and leather, and we have to take them forward to generate the kind of employment we need to move people from non-farm sector to the farm, from the farm sector to the non-farm sector. Then small and medium scale industries, where we talked, and Mr. Navneet Sehgal, my colleague, also pointed out that the largest number of such industries are in UP. If these industries start functioning well, if they start getting the right kind of capital, the kind of market, right kind of technology, the right kind of support, which the government is promising to them, and they are able to take this support, then a kind of revolution is possible, because it is these macro industries and small industries which are situated all over the state, and if they turn around, if they are able to give employment, if they have a positive kind of feeling about the state, then this kind of growth rate is definitely possible. Infrastructure, of course, is important. Expressways have come up in a big way in Uttar Pradesh. The Lucknow Agra Expressway is a project which is worth, anybody comes here, he talks about that expressway as worth emulating. Now the Purvanchal Expressway is coming up, we talk about the Bundelkhand Expressway, then ultimately the Ganga Expressway. So a network of expressways is coming up, and if that happens, I think on both sides of these expressways, there is tremendous potential for the warehousing and the logistic industry to come up. There is a lot of potential for the tourism and entertainment industry to come up on both sides. Lot of potential as the price of the land goes up for even new cities to emerge, which will become engines of growth. I see in the future a couple of new cities coming up on the banks or on the sides of these expressways, which will be, like the gift city near Ahmedabad, which is the financial city. New cities which will be, focusing on total export-oriented growth or, any other aspect of growth, and smart cities by themselves, which will revolutionize the whole concept of growth that is taking place in UP. The urban sector will be acting as an engine to pull up the rural sector also. Then of course tourism, Ajay also pointed out, huge potential, as a huge employer, and now the potential in UP is tremendous with Ayodhya. I don't think there is any other place in the world today that has greater potential for development as a tourism site than Ayodhya. It can, develop into the, as I say somewhere, as our Chief Minister has pointed out, as an international Vedic city. And something like, it can be the Vatican of the East, as I say. It certainly can be, because so many people are going to throng to Ayodhya in the years to come. Almost anybody who is anywhere in India or in NRI would want to come and visit Ayodhya. And if the right kind of environment is there, the right kind of development of the hotel industry, the entertainment industry, the museums, the parks and everything is done out there, then Ayodhya will become a place where people will throng to, will come to. So that kind of a thing is absolutely possible. In addition to that, we have the Buddha circuit, we have Mathura Vrindavan. Religious tourism in a big way can be, big fillip can be given to religious tourism in Uttar Pradesh. And that apart, of course, we have Agra, which also has a huge potential to grow. So all said and done, I think tourism sector is one sector which will generate a lot of employment, and Uttar Pradesh has tremendous potential to succeed in this particular area. And the government is focusing on it, and we need to focus much more on this to take this forward. I would absolutely agree with Ajay when he says about education and health. I think we have to invest hugely in the sectors of health and education. Public health and public education becomes very important, because we have the demographic dividend, but this demographic dividend will give us rewards, will reap the benefit only if they are made capable of reaping that benefit. If they are able to participate in the process of economic development, only then will some kind of change come. And if they don't have the kind of health standards, if they are not properly educated, then they are totally unfit to participate either in the democratic process or in the economic growth process. And they'll be left behind. And when they are left behind, then you create a situation where you have a state which may even be growing fast, but there may be widening inequalities. And these widening inequalities are never the right kind of growth model which I would talk about Uttar Pradesh. So as I say, when we talk about $1 trillion, we should not forget that we want an inclusive economy. We want an economy where you have to focus on social infrastructure, on education, on health, and we have to take the entire population forward. So that kind of a scenario is what we're talking about. And Ajay Shibbat pointed out about the HDI, the Human Development Index. India is very low in HDI, and UP also is, second only to Bihar as far as HDI is concerned from the bottom. So there's a large way to go if you want to improve our human capital. And without improving this human capital, this demographic dividend will not give the kind of benefit that it should, or it has given to many other countries when they used it for explosive growth. And finally, a last word on governance reforms, very essential. Without kind of governance reforms, nothing is going to be possible. Unless we have a policy formulation environment, and going beyond that, execution. Execution is the key. If you are able to go to the last mile of execution, to really take it forward to the last mile and give benefit to the targeted person, then things will really change. Things will turn around. And for that, we have to reform our bureaucracy, we have to reform our civil service, we have to reform our decision-making process, we have to bring in e-governance in a big way, and we have to see that decisions are taken. It is not that files are pushed from one place to another, but there is accountability for decision-making. There is incentives for decision-making, and there is an entire environment where decision-making is the priority and not policy paralysis. There should not be policy paralysis of any kind. For that, I think we civil servants are very much responsible to take the lead and bring about that kind of change within the civil service to make this basic quantum leap that we are talking about possible. So I think these are the whole scenario of inputs that is required to bring about a $1 trillion economy as far as Uttar Pradesh is concerned by 2025. If it is not by 2025, maybe a few years after that. But yes, that's a goal we must strive for. And we have to take into account our regional disparities, our inequalities, our level of poverty, but at the same time, our human resources there which can be converted into a major strength, and we should focus on doing that. So once again, I must say that I must compliment LMA for keeping this topic for the annual convention. Uttar Pradesh has taken the lead or has taken up this, objective of reaching $1 trillion. I'm told they've already hired a consultant to guide them in the process. They're very serious about this goal. And if all departments of Uttar Pradesh and all sectors of the economy out here work in tandem and move forward together, this is definitely very much possible. And I'm sure it will be possible. And this convention today has come forward with many ideas and many roadmaps which will be important for the government to take into consideration in taking their objective further. So with that, I'd like to come to the end of what I want to say. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity, and thank you Ajay for also listening to you. And you spoke exceedingly well and highlighted the entire picture so beautifully with the use of the adequate and appropriate data. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही है माधु सर.
Mr. Madhu's voice. So maybe request President Dr. Navi Saigal to.
Am I audible?